There's just been a lot of interest from faculty, particularly over this past school year. Teachers have sat with me during lunch and asked me about, what are we doing about recycling on campus? What are we doing to improve energy efficiency? The teachers that have been here for a while reflect back, 18 years ago when we had a green team in Overlake, and ask, whatever happened with that? Why aren't we doing anything like that again? Is that still a priority for the school? After talking with a lot of people, sort of decided that there seems to be a lot of interest. It's something that I'm passionate about, and I checked with Matt to see if that's something that the school would support, and he said that it was, so that's sort of how it all is coming back together again. One thing that I'm obviously really passionate about is reducing energy consumption and minimizing our negative impact on the environment. Realizing that no one can exist on the planet without impacting it in some way, and a lot of the impact that we have is detrimental to the natural environment, but trying to minimize that as much as possible. So particularly with our energy consumption, because that's something that's pretty straightforward in terms of you get a bill every month, and last month Overlake spent over $15,000 on electricity and natural gas. So it's quantitative. You can see how much money you're spending, how much energy you're using, and then we can step back and think, are we using energy in the most efficient way? It's not that we need to not use energy or not do any of our programming, or not heat our buildings, or not cool our buildings, but is there a way that we can use that energy more efficiently so we get the same outcome using less resources, less energy, and spending less money? From their perspective, no one was around the last time we had a green team, and I don't think they were even aware that something like that would be possible, or that it was something that they could even strive for. So I think their green team, their environmental club, is something that is just totally student-centered. So in forming the green team for Overlake, that's going to be composed of faculty and staff and administrators, and also students, because we definitely need their input as well. In order to make the largest impact with the limited amount of time and resources that we have, it makes sense to step back and evaluate where are we right now. So one thing that we would want to do is to have an environmental sustainability audit done for the campus, which would take a look at all our resource consumption, such as natural gas, electricity, water, how much waste do we produce in terms of our garbage, our recycling rates, composting, how much water and paper do we use, what is our energy use in terms of our transportation for not only our buses, but also for students and faculty and staff who are traveling from their homes to school and back every day. And one way to quantify is to take a look at our carbon footprint, because all those things impact the amount of carbon impact that we have on the environment. So one idea would be to have that assessment done. That would give us a baseline for where we are right now in terms of, let's say, our carbon footprint, and then also allow us to come up with ideas to where can we get the biggest bang for our buck in terms of investing some money into concrete outcomes that we could then down the road look back and compare quantitatively to see how have we been doing in the last year. Has our carbon footprint increased or decreased or stayed the same, and in what areas? Right. Yeah, we want to avoid doing random acts of sustainability where, this sounds like a great idea, so let's try that. Oh, but that's a shiny object over there. Let's go look at that for a little while. To have an overall a plan and a blueprint of how things exist now, and then where can we get to, and then once we create that roadmap, then we can have checkpoints along the way to see how we're progressing. So some money would be going aside to perform a sustainability audit. That would ideally be done with an outside consultant, particularly for the building side of things in terms of the energy that's consumed on campus. But then we would also want to actually take active steps to reduce the amount of energy that we're consuming and for the energy that we are using to generate it from renewable resources. So a good chunk of that money could also go towards putting solar panels on buildings on campus. The biggest bang for our buck would be putting solar panels on the roof of the library. Because one idea that I have for next year's project week is to involve students to not only involve them in the process, but to educate them about renewable energy, about how much can be generated in this Pacific Northwest rainy climate that we have, and to see how much can be generated, what's the cost of the solar panels installation, and what's your return on investment in terms of financial standpoints. But having the students involved also means that we would reduce the cost of that installation by about half. And that would also make more for an educational experience for the entire campus, because if we put solar panels on the roof of the gym, which is a great surface area, has lots of direct sun, but no one's ever going to see them. So having solar panels on the lower roof of the library allows people to take notice every time they walk from the campus center anywhere to their next class. They can look over and say, oh, there's solar panels right there and they're generating electricity. And then we can also post that information on our website, so you can see on an hourly or minute by minute basis how much electricity is being generated, how much was generated in the past, and all that data could be open to the public. So, from simple things like turning off lights when you're not in the room, or making sure that you have to dispose of something, you pause for a moment and think, okay, is this garbage, is it recycling, or is it compost? And then making sure that it gets in the right receptacles so that we're not contaminating the recycling that we're doing, because that's unfortunately a large problem that we have on campus. My environmental science classes have been doing waste audits for the last several years, where we go in the campus center, we pull out all the disposal cans, the garbage, recycling, and compost, and weigh each of them individually, and then dump each one onto a plastic tarp, and then sort it correctly, and then reweigh everything after it's correctly sorted. And for the last several years, maybe 70% of our waste is being sorted correctly. And then also thinking about, how am I getting to school? Do I live next to someone who has a similar schedule on campus, and could we maybe carpool? Could we maybe purchase an electric car because it's a lot cheaper to operate, has a lower impact on the environment, and it just lowers your carbon footprint, which in all also affects the carbon footprint of the school. The impact that I individually have is really small. There's over 300 million people just in the United States and 7.5 billion on the planet. So sure, my personal impact is small, but our personal impacts are, once you combine them with everyone else, is what makes the total impact of our community, of of our country, of the planet. So, you can choose to think that your individual impact is insignificant, and in a way it is, but if you change your behaviors and your consumption, and if everyone else does too, then that is the way that we would make the significant change that needs to happen.